In just 32 seconds, one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses would be pushed to her absolute breaking point, leading to the most explosive confrontation in late-night television history. What started as promotional banter for Jennifer Aniston's latest project quickly devolved into a vicious character assassination that left the Friends star no choice but to defend her reputation against allegations that would shake the entertainment industry to its core. The atmosphere in Studio 6 Amperes was already thick with tension as Jennifer Aniston settled into the guest chair across from Jimmy Kimmel. Something felt different tonight. The usual pre-show pleasantries had been notably absent, and Kimmel's trademark grin seemed forced, almost predatory. The audience, unaware of what was brewing behind the scenes, erupted in their typical enthusiastic applause as the cameras rolled. "So Jennifer," Kimmel began, his voice carrying an edge that immediately caught Aniston's attention, "let's talk about your new morning show drama. But first, I think we need to address the elephant in the room." He leaned back in his chair with the confidence of someone who believed he held all the cards. Aniston's smile faltered slightly. "I'm sorry. What elephant would that be, Jimmy?" "Oh, come on now," Kimmel chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. "You really want to sit here and pretend like the internet hasn't been buzzing about certain patterns in your career choices? The rumors about how you've maintained your position in Hollywood all these years?" The color drained from Aniston's face as the implication hit her. The audience shifted uncomfortably, sensing the sudden change in energy but not yet understanding what was happening. "I have no idea what you're talking about. And frankly, I don't appreciate the insinuation." Kimmel pressed on, emboldened by her visible discomfort. "Look, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. It's 2025. The Me Too movement opened a lot of eyes about how this industry really works. And when you look at your career trajectory, especially after Friends ended, some people might wonder how exactly you kept landing these high-profile roles. Are you seriously suggesting—" Aniston started, her voice rising with indignation. "I'm not suggesting anything," Kimmel interrupted, holding up his hands in mock innocence. "I'm just asking the questions that a lot of people have been too polite to ask. How does someone maintain A-list status for 3 decades without ever really having that breakthrough dramatic role that justifies it?" The studio fell deadly silent. Even the cameramen seemed frozen, unsure whether they should keep rolling or cut to commercial. Aniston's hands were visibly trembling as she gripped the arms of her chair. "You son of a bitch," she whispered, her voice barely audible but picked up clearly by her microphone. "How dare you sit there and question my integrity, my work ethic, my entire fucking career based on internet gossip and conspiracy theories?" Kimmel's eyes lit up with the thrill of having struck a nerve. Hey, language. We're on television here. But I think the lady doth protest too much, don't you think?" He turned to address the audience with that familiar smirk. "I mean, if there's nothing to hide, why get so defensive?" "Defensive?" Aniston stood up abruptly, her chair rolling backward. "You just accused me of sleeping my way to the top on national television. And you think I'm being defensive? You think this is some kind of joke?" The confrontation was escalating beyond anything the show's producers had anticipated. But the cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment of what was quickly becoming a career-defining moment for both celebrities. Little did anyone know that this was only the beginning of what would become the most talked-about late-night television meltdown in history. And Jennifer Aniston was just getting started. Kimmel leaned forward in his chair, feeding off the chaos he had created like a predator sensing weakness. "Look, Jennifer, I'm just doing my job here. Asking the tough questions that—" "Your job?" Aniston's voice cracked with fury as she took a step closer to his desk. "Your job is to promote my show, not to ambush me with baseless accusations that could destroy everything I've worked for. What the hell is wrong with you?" The audience was now completely silent, some covering their mouths in shock, others pulling out their phones to capture what was clearly becoming television history. Kimmel's producer frantically gestured from the wings, but he ignored every signal to back down. "Come on, it's not that serious," Kimmel said with a dismissive wave. "Everyone knows Hollywood runs on favors. I'm sure you've had to play the game like everyone else. There's no shame in admitting it." "Play the game?" Aniston's eyes blazed with an intensity that made even the seasoned talk show host shift uncomfortably. "You mean compromise my values? Degrade myself? Is that what you think of me? Is that what you think of women in this industry? I think some women are willing to do whatever it takes to get ahead, Kimmel replied, doubling down despite the obvious danger signals. And your track record speaks for itself. Friends, residuals can't explain everything. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Security personnel had quietly moved closer to the stage, sensing that the situation was spiraling completely out of control. Aniston's publicist was frantically trying to get the producer's attention from the audience. My track record? Aniston's voice dropped to a menacing whisper that somehow carried more threat than any scream. Let me tell you about my track record, you pathetic excuse for a journalist. I've worked my ass off for 30 years. I've shown up early, stayed late, memorized every line, hit every mark, and treated everyone from the craft services person to the studio head with respect. She moved even closer to Kimmel's desk, her finger now pointing directly at his face. While you've been sitting here making dick jokes and kissing celebrity ass for ratings, I've been building a production company, championing women's stories, and trying to make this industry better for the next generation. Kimmel's confident facade was beginning to crack as he realized he had severely miscalculated. The audience was no longer just shocked. They were turning against him. Murmurs of disapproval rippled through the crowd as Aniston's words landed with devastating precision. But you know what, Jimmy? You want to talk about playing games? Let's talk about your game. Let's talk about the married host who built his career on cheap shots and manufactured controversy. Let's talk about someone whose biggest claim to fame is reading mean tweets because he doesn't have the talent for actual comedy. The temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Kimmel's face flushed red as he realized his victim had just become his executioner. Now wait just a goddamn minute. No, you wait. Aniston slammed her hand on his desk so hard that his coffee mug jumped. You opened this door. Now you get to walk through it. You want to destroy my reputation on national television? Fine. But I'm not going down without taking you with me, you misogynistic piece of shit. The censors were having a field day, but somehow, the raw emotion was getting through the delays. Social media was already exploding as clips began circulating in real time. This wasn't just a talk show confrontation anymore. It was a reckoning that had been years in the making. And everyone in that studio knew they were witnessing something that would change both of their careers forever. Kimmel scrambled to regain control, his voice cracking as he tried to salvage what was left of his reputation. Jennifer, I think you're overreacting here. This is just television. We're all friends. Friends? Aniston let out a bitter laugh that sent chills through the studio. You think we're friends after what you just did? You think you can destroy someone's character and then hide behind, it's just television? You're even more pathetic than I thought. The audience was now fully on Aniston's side, with several people standing and applauding her defiance. Kimmel looked desperately toward his producers, but they were frozen, knowing that cutting to commercial now would only make things worse. Look, maybe I went too far, Kimmel stammered, sweat visible on his forehead under the studio lights. But you can't what? Can't defend myself against your disgusting insinuations? Can't call out your bullshit for what it is? Aniston's voice rose to a crescendo that commanded the attention of every person in that building. You want to know the truth about how I've maintained my career, Jimmy? I'll tell you. She turned to face the cameras directly, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. I've survived in this industry because I refuse to let small, insecure men like you tear me down. I've succeeded because when people like you try to reduce me to gossip and speculation, I work twice as hard to prove them wrong. Kimmel made one last desperate attempt to interrupt. Jennifer, please, let's just shut up. The words were delivered with such cold finality that Kimmel actually recoiled. I'm not done talking. You opened your mouth and now you get to listen. Aniston stepped back from his desk, standing tall as she delivered what would become one of the most quoted moments in television history. For 30 years, I've dealt with men like you who think they can diminish women by questioning how we earned our success. Well, here's your answer. I earned it by being better than you. I earned it by showing up when you were making excuses. I earned it by treating people with respect while you were tearing them down for cheap laughs. The studio erupted in thunderous applause, drowning out Kimmel's weak attempts to respond. Security moved closer as the host's desperation became increasingly apparent. You know what the real tragedy is here, Jimmy, Aniston continued, her voice now steady and controlled. which somehow made her words even more devastating. You had the chance to have a real conversation with someone who's actually accomplished something meaningful. Instead, you chose to be a gossip-mongering hack who gets his kicks from trying to humiliate women. She reached for her microphone and unclipped it from her dress with deliberate precision. I came here tonight to promote a show about strong women supporting each other. Instead, I've been reminded why that show is so desperately needed. Kimmel sat in stunned silence as Aniston placed her microphone on his desk with a sharp click that echoed through the now silent studio. "This interview is over," she announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had just reclaimed her power. "And Jimmy, next time you want to question someone's integrity, take a long look in the mirror first." Without another word, Jennifer Aniston turned and walked toward the stage exit with her head held high, her heels clicking against the floor in a rhythm that sounded like victory. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation that seemed to last forever, their cheers following her all the way to the wings. Kimmel sat frozen at his desk, his career effectively ending in real time as the cameras continued to roll, capturing every second of his humiliation. The show that was supposed to destroy Jennifer Aniston had instead revealed Jimmy Kimmel for exactly what he was, a bully who had finally met his match. As the studio doors closed behind her, Jennifer Aniston had delivered the most devastating takedown in late-night television history, leaving behind a host whose reputation would never recover from the wreckage of his own making.